And they try to tell you that we ain't talking about what the prophet said.
Yes, you are.
We've been building on it, and they're mad because it makes them irrelevant.
That's right.
And you ain't leave nothing
Irrelevant.
That's right.
out. That's right.
They've cheated the people, and now they're being exposed because you're being educated.
Yes.
We don't deal with followers, we deal with scholars.
Oh, that was a
Do you understand?
Yes.
Now, enforce the Constitution and understand one of the things that I wanted to share with you, and I'll make sure that you get in the future, and I do apologize, the weather kind of held everybody up, and plus, I think I got a couple hours rest, maybe. Anyway, yeah. But the Constitution of man is predicated on the divine construct of the human body. And the Constitution is harmonic with the living being. Its purpose of having 7 articles is in support of the 7 major chakras in the body of man, though there's hundreds. It's dealing with the crown chakra to the chakra of the coccyx bone and the activation of them. All right? So it's harmonic with you. There is a metaphysical nature to the American Constitution that all scholars, political scholars know, but have not been teaching you. All right? So when the prophet says for you to enforce that Constitution, do not take it lightly. Are we clear? In every article in that Constitution, it is generally designed in harmony with nature's God and nature's law, which is why the Kabbalists, the deists presented in the preamble nature's law and nature's God. They just told you that's the Zodiac Constitution origin. Are we clear? So therefore, you must learn the science of earth. You must learn the 12 salts that Mother uses to build the body and thus the constitution of man. You must learn the triplicity of the 4 corners of the 4 gates that you will also find in the book around 21 in the book of Revelation. North gate, south gate, east gate, west gate. That's your zodiac constitution. And that's the revelation that you would be revealed, this, including the breaking of the 7th seal. That's your 7th circle 7 and your seal on the note. That's really the debt of the Jesuits, not your debt. And this is why when you turn the Great Seal upside down, you'll see circle 7 on the note. All right? So that's enforcing the Constitution. So the debt note that really belongs to Rome, they've been trying to convert it to you all. So the prophet leaves it to the heirs of the estate to step up, to be competent, and to enforce that Constitution and reclaim your lost estate, because it's being controlled by Rome under the unum sanctum policy and their doctrine of discovery. However, it is also important, as you see, the Empress came up here and speak, and also with the diplomat of peace sitting next to her, furred up. Yes, to unite, because it is our energy together that actually defeats the dark priesthood. Individually, sure, we have strength, but they like to devour individuals.
Yes.
You know, I say no man's an island type thing. But the qualification of nature is for us to have learned what we've done to ourselves by following after Rome, giving up our birthright, but also to remove the ego and to come together and reclaim your lost estate. You must recognize that you're an heir, but you must recognize that Rome will make other offers as you wake up to get you off that constitutional platform. That if you authenticate the birth certificate, we'll let you into the Sister Q Trust. And you have bottomless pit access to all these funds. I don't think so. Now, for those of you who know contract law, and please share if you will, in order to be a claimant in controversy relative to estates of any type, and this is universal in its principle of contract law, you must be what is called holder in due course. Is that not true? If it's not true, please tell me.
That's true. That's true.
Now, is that established? Can we accept that we're working with a solid foundation?
You are.
All right. Now, in order to be holder in due course, is it not true that you must have the original instruments with the wedding signatures to make that claim to be holder in due course?
Yes, it is.
All right. Now, as I understand it, people have been telling people that they have contracts out there and they have to rescind these contracts. And they have to claim these instruments. Now, does anyone here know of anyone who's ever retrieved the original birth certificates that were put on the stock market with all the signatures to be claimant as holder in due course? Or has some of these people who have been selling these processes got certified copies of an alleged birth certificate?
No. Highly unlikely.
Certified copies. Any clerk in vital statistics in any jurisdiction in any so-called official operations of government, whether de facto or de jure, do not give up original documents to anyone.
That's right.
Therefore, any instruments gained by anyone that they allege to authenticate are what?
Stolen from.
Not holder in due course, but just let them off the hook for the debt that they converted to you for future reparations. It's contract law. Fundamental contract law. This is another reason why people who were assigned by Noble Raleigh to hit the hedges and the highways, and so that the people wouldn't be confused, he said, if you doubt whether the program I have for the redemption of my people and citizens is correct, go to those who know law. Duh. They didn't believe him. That's why they're getting screwed. So, they had the HMOs, didn't they? Then they had site drafts, didn't they? Then they had affidavits to the transportation department, didn't they? Then they had UCCs, didn't they? Then they had financial statements, didn't they? Now they got birth certificate authentication. Name 5 people that you know that got their hand in this Sister Q trust and control it. Name 1. I've traveled the country. I've dealt with Europeans and Asiatics that have been dealing with all these different systems. Sound good, feel good, makes you inspired, and get you broke. And that European sister that went the full course of the way, you all know her. And as soon as she went to put her hand in it, they locked her up. Not that she wasn't correct. She didn't do anything wrong. She did the system, which means they're dishonorable. And soon as you hit the bases, then they changed the rules. Then they took her in an ecclesiastical court. How many of you all even heard of ecclesiastical court? Closed the doors, and she didn't have anybody there to support her. And it was dedicated Europeans around the country who also trying to get the republic back, who got together and had been working, to get her released. I think she got released, but they, screwed her. But what does that tell you? What they're doing is buying time. Do you understand what I'm saying? Anything in government operations that has any legitimacy does not require you to jump through 50 hoops.
Right.
And there's nothing that's legitimate that millions of people do, generate a lot of finance, and you can't name 5 people that complete the process. But you can name thousands who keep on getting hundreds of notes from people for these processes, but they already supposedly got their hands on the bottomless pit of the Sister Q Trust. And like I was telling brothers, Chalet Moore, when we was coming down here, that's like me having beach property, right? I got beach property, man. all the shores and all the stuff, and so y'all invited and stuff. And I said, come on down. They got all this beach property and everything. Bring your family, bring the friends, bring the children. Bring a bucket of water for each one of you. I don't want to see no water. It's like somebody owned a peanut factory, tell them to visit, you need to bring a peanut butter sandwich. So if somebody is got their hand in this bottomless pit account and all of their debts are being discharged, they don't need your fiat. That's like telling somebody, can you breathe in a windstorm? Yeah. No, slow it down, really. But if people would think, and just keep this in mind, this is my point. In order for you, me, or anyone to be holder in due course, you must have the original instruments. Yes. This is the reason why many of you who know when they were busting that derivative bubble in 207 and 208, and they started the Unum Sanctum program that they directed to most of the Asiatic communities where they're gentrifying the communities. And these people thought they owned their houses and they was foreclosing on them even when they thought they were paid up. And then selling blocks of houses to other nation states to satisfy debts. Right? And people arguing, still losing. Then a few Europeans, and there was a European a woman, a lawyer, and a European guy. These were two different cases as an example. They weren't going for it. They invoked the Clearfield Doctrine and argued their case because they're part of the system. And this is when the courts declared marriage as a fraud. All the foreclosures of marriage, that's what that's about. Clearfield principle, right? Now, why is it not that all of these so-called, with all due respect, black leader guys that know about ancient Egypt don't know about this, but they're always marching and complaining about our communities being gentrified. But they stay away from this kind of information and attack anybody who exposes it to you. Because usually they're getting paid off from this stuff for the communities by the corporations, and the corporations get, taxed. They get their tax abatements by contributing to black marching organizations, acting like they're contributing something to the communities. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Now, this is point, and keep this in mind. One cannot be holder in due course on any claim of estate or houses or land in a challenged controversy if you're not holder in due course and have the original mortgage and promissory note together to make your claim, and proof that you're not a third-party interloper while making that argument. And if you are a third party, you must have written document from the original holder and proof of evidence that they sent you as their representative for that estate. And essentially, this is again why before we told people, when we said reversion of estate, when your property is in foreclosure, do an adverse claim with the committed statement that you stop all negotiations on the property pending your exercise of rebuttal, adverse claim, and removal of your signature from the promissory note which was misused. And all the other stuff is irrelevant. And that's how you begin to stop that. Now, these Grand Chiefs and Grand Chiefesses of the Moorish Science Temple of America was taught all these things by Noble Drali. And they were supposed to have a grand treasury. And they were supposed to have businesses. They had, and Sister Pearl had a woman's auxiliary to teach women structured government. All those things were undermined. Noble Drali had a newspaper, which was our most powerful instrument. They broke it down and junked it. And then attacked guys like Taji guy for telling them. And called us renegades. Because the fact of the matter is, when I was trying to give this information in the temple, they attacked my sisters. And that's the truth, which is why I founded the Roundtable. I still go to the temple, but I don't play with them. Because I know they don't love the prophet. Because anybody that did love the prophet, first thing they would do is reestablish the prophet's paper, reestablish Sister Pearl's Woman's Auxiliary, reestablish the Grand Treasury, account for all that bus finances they've been collecting for decades with no buses. And every temple, not may, must have a school.
That's right.
Yes.
And they've been screwing these people and attacking anybody that's been teaching you, which is, I'm grateful that Dr. Naila makes this platform available.
Yes.
Because if it was for them, you wouldn't get this information.
Yeah.
But they're always talking about how they love the prophet. You keep on holding your breath. And it's a lot of good Moors in the temple that get painted with a bad brush because they will not exercise caveat emptor, which the prophet put in place to fix that very thing. But that's all right. Because Prophet Noble Ali said, when I come back, y'all, first thing I'm going to do is clean up these temples. Now you take that to the bank. Children. Now, so when you enforce the Constitution, it actually is broader than you think it is. And this is what must be understood. And I'm grateful and I'm honored that the Empress came up and the diplomat of peace came up. Because the reality, and we've been talking and we've been together for the last week, really, and they've been healing us and doing a lot of stuff, and I've been, really satisfied with just having that feminine energy of truth around me. All them powerful women. Awesome. Very inspiring. And because they're conscious too. That just is like really for real. Knowing this, when the mothers become conscious, the cure begins.
Yes.
It's not that we the sons, we do what we do. But the real energy is in the mother. When she gets it together, the BS stops. The constitution of this body, Solomon's temple, was made by my mother. Solomon's temple. It ain't no building, it's this body. Now the deal is, when you comprehend why she brought you here, for those of you who know Moorish science, study your north and south nodes also, to have an idea. Is that not right?
Yes, it is.
You know kind of idea how you came, because masterminds trace themselves with Moorish science. When you get tired of playing around, you want to get serious about fixing something, go back to the principles of your ancient mothers and fathers, see why she brought you here. Don't mean you're not supposed to have fun, but the truth of the matter is you're not having fun as long as you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. And if you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, you will not be happy anyway. So get with it, study yourselves. And how do you study yourselves? You go to that wheel. And this is why, like if you look in, as an example, with the enforcement of Constitution, you go to chapter 1 and study the stations of the sun and the mighty Allah. And that's where you will find what your mission is. And that will be the aspects, the conjunctions, the sextiles in relationship to the degrees on the time cycle when your mom brought you here through her stargate, the great school of the womb. And what's missing relative to the moons that you're outside the womb is usually the salts that you need and phosphates that you need to complete Solomon's temple. It will give you a key on the tendencies of what your sicknesses may be or your weaknesses may be. And not unlike if you're looking at the constitution of the body, like one side may be weaker than the other side. Yes. or predominant. In the same way if you're doing training, you know, this is the weak arm, say, do some exercise with a pencil. Lifting it up like this, you know, to strengthen that, you know. Now the other side, stronger, you know, you cool, you just keep it polished. But keep in mind, when you study yourself and know yourself, you look at your strengths and you look at your weaknesses, because the math does not lie. Then you exercise or polish the character by building on the weak sides. That's religion. Are we clear?
Yes.
That's how it's used. All right? That's more science. Part of it. It's not a belief, it's a knowledge of the workings of nature and the structure of self, the constitution of man. So study your mother and know your inheritance, present and projected. And you can turn the wheel and see past, and turn it up and see future. It's called prophecy. Do the math. They're supposed to teach them people that too. They didn't. You know why? Personal opinion. They wanted a bunch of badges and titles and controlling people's lives and finances and stagnating them and feeling self-important. Well, prophets taking care of that, because these babies are going to come into the temple with their eyes already open. And going to take them criminals. See, the prophet was modest. He said he's going to take them on more and sit on their back. He's being modest. Because when these people find out the damage that's been done to their family by these criminals, some of them might not get any more peanut butter sandwiches. That's all I got to say about that. However, you're going to study the 12 salts that your mother built your body with, constitution, and you're going to enforce it. So the Constitution is not just that written document of the Zodiac Constitution or the Constitution for the United States, but it is the written Constitution of self. It is your natal chart, is the Constitution, and all of them must be enforced in order for you to be liberated. Are we clear?
Clear.
And I know you, I'm burning up over here, so go ahead, take the mic. Take the mic and add to it, because you already know.
Yes. Yes.
Now give them the cycle time right now and how some of the things are reflecting in the politics. Give us the star chart, and then talk the reflection. More is science, y'all.
Yes.
It's fine. What on science? Go ahead.
Well, one thing we can talk about that's recent right now, that's affecting politics, is this Mercury retrograde. First of all, retrograde, to say it simply, is for those of us that traveled here, when you were passing a tractor trailer, and the tractor trailer looked like it was moving backwards, but it was still moving forward, you was just passing it. That's the simplest illustration for retrograde.
How planets move.
Yeah, the tractor trailer is in retrograde motion in comparison to your motion. So with the Mercury retrograde, you'll notice, and really today, I'm pretty sure this is what people notice with the Mercury retrograde and the moon void of course. What that means but when the moon is leaving one sign and enter another sign, it's not making an aspect to another planet. So to put it in layman's terms, with the Mercury retrograde, we're doing a lot of intercommunication. We may be experiencing travel issues. As well as we'll also, with the Mercury retrograde, we'll do a lot of internalizing. That's just to my studies thus far. With the moon void, of course, till 8:07 this evening. It was void, I think, 8:34 p.m. last night. And it came into Sagittarius today at 8:07 p.m.
Yeah.
So if anybody made any types, now I'm just saying wild purchases, like if you're doing anything new, you're gonna regret it by the 22nd of December. Because that retrograde, that Mercury retrograde says don't do anything new, don't start any new contracts, don't make any new purchases. And with a moon void of course to some astrologers is known as buyer's remorse.
Yeah.
So it would be best, and how can you know this? There's actually Cafe Astrology.
Yeah.
They actually provide, if you just simply Google Ephemeris 2017, EPHEMERIS, simply Google it, find the result from Cafe Astrology. An ephemeris is a basic calendar that all high priests use.
All adepts use, and they've been teaching it to the members in order to maintain selfish power and importance. Seem like he's a genius. No, they ain't. They hiding the signs from you.
Right.
Taking your taffies. Cheaters.
That's right, boy.
Go ahead, Gabriel.
Okay, okay, so politically, let us look in a political forum, okay? I'm an open source, so I'm going to give you the resources that I use, okay? So 3 resources, two that are apps on my phone. If you guys know about Benjamin Banneker, Emmanuel Benbey Muwali,
Yes.
if I said his appellation correctly.
Right.
Our ancient foremothers and forefathers used an instrument called an astrolabe, ASTROLABE.
Get used to it. More science.
Okay, and ASTROLABE. And it's a website out there called Astrolabe by an astrologer who has passed form, but his family is still making sure that it's maintained on there. And there's an app called Celeste 2.0. And on Celeste 2.0, it'll give you an opportunity to cast any chart, anytime, anywhere.
There you go.
So, for example, when Prophet Noble Drew Ali wrote the letter to be read at every meeting.
Yeah, that they won't read at every meeting.
And it was and it was written, it was delivered January 18th of 1929.
Yes.
Okay? And at the end of it, something interested me. Prophet Noble Drew Ali said he was going to be at the inauguration of President Hoover.
Yes.
And I thought that was like interesting, so I was like, let me cast that chart, because if you know when they were inaugurating presidents, before it was January 20th, it was always in Pisces.
Yep.
So a lot of times they would do it around March 4th-ish at noon.
Yeah.
So if one was to type January 18th, 1929 into a calculator like Celeste, or go on planetwatcher.com online, type in that date and that time, March 4th, 1929, at 12 noon, and you'll see why there was a Great Depression, with no question.
Yep.
So when you see the politics happen, like for example, I'll read something from Celeste, and I thought it was very interesting. They have a button on here that says weather.
Yes.
Okay. It's funny. I just kind of like cracked my phone in the conveyance. It was in my pocket. But is that a good shot, brother Shirley Moore? Kind of like, yeah. So, and it's a weather button, right? So if I hit the weather button,
Yeah.
because I do use my tools. I'm just not like, call me now if you're free to read it, and then I look into my crystal ball. No, it's more of, I use my tools. I take what Brother Taj has been sharing that I picked up on through Mother Delilah's recordings put on YouTube, Mother Naila providing this platform. So I just been gumboing everything, and I've been able to come to a brief conclusion. So I'm going to read this weather real quick, and you had mentioned politics, Brother Taj, so I just wanted to...
Because a reminder of you all is that governing and government they always have a Sayaraha, and she goes, usually she's a female. Not that men aren't good at it, but females are better because they're more in tune into it. And as an example, when Reagan was in office, the DAR slipped up and exposed that to the public. That was his wife, Nancy, when she talked about the adept chamber, the astrological chamber in the White House. And then they try to make her seem like she's all at the lunch because it was really a cover-up, because they don't want the masses to know that government is run like that by Moorish science. And so when people see the button MA, they say Moorish American, but adepts know it means master astrologer also. You understand? And adept is expert, means expert. That's what adept means. And yes, and she let it out. They have an ephemerides, and with the ephemerides is essentially a star chart calendar. All things are run by that. And also when you look at it and when you start doing what you call extended calculations, you can see where you get the term circle of life and terms like that, because you're dealing with the outer wheels. We mathematically calculate, for people who really don't know that we measure, from cycles. We measure in cycles. Drew Ali's told you to, so that you school you. He said that Moors measure time in cycles, by cycles, because he's sending you to the science. They would do a projection, like say for instance, if you're a diplomat or if you're the praetor, who they call the president, and he's going to another jurisdiction dealing with international matters or trade or treaty, what they call treaty intercourse. They would look at the chart, do a projection real quick, and adjust accordingly, or cancel.
Yes.
And that's science. And the real deal is that you're supposed to be running your life that way too. And when they attack you, they do a chart on you.
Yes.
So the deal of it is, and that's called Constitution. Enforce the Constitution. You all thought I was just going to talk about the organic Constitution for the United States. No, the Constitution of you, the Constitution of Moorish science. And I'm grateful that Hassan is here because he's using his tools. And the other deal, also why I asked you to participate, which you do anyway, is it is because so often people who've been trying to block this information or block your development or block the capacity for you to be communicated with to present this information, they didn't want you to have this because it makes them irrelevant. It actually empowers you.
Yes.
It actually empowers you. And so I wanted you to see the opportunity, just as casual, see one who's actually using more science. But the major thing is, don't apologize for the truth and don't feel as though that you need to apologize for the truth. Speak on, brother.
I was going to speak on this one because I'm pretty sure when people think politics out there, the family that's watching, and some of the family here, you would probably instantly think Trump, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to read one of these weathers because what the weather is saying is, for those that don't know what an aspect is, and Brother Taj was talking about conjunctions, squares, trines, oppositions, and really the square, when you check in 1733, they call it quartile.
Yeah.
They didn't call it square.
Yeah.
They called it quartile. So I was like, wow. But an aspect, long story short, a conjunction is like, so say like a new moon is saying the sun and the moon are conjunct. That means that they're both in the same area, okay? Within 0 to 10 degrees.
Yeah.
And opposition is 180, so that's a full moon.
Yeah.
Okay? A quarter moon would be 90.
Yes.
Okay, in either direction. There's other ones that are there too, the tridecal and stuff like that, but we're just going to stick to the majors. So here it says, it has a few of them, these planets, and this is where the planets are now. So this is what they would call, some astrologers would call a mundane weather forecast. And mundane, for those that are the etymologists, you know, mundo is dealing with the earth.
Yes.
Okay? So I'm gonna start from the bottom and go up, because the bottom shows what I perceive as things that people probably wouldn't want to deal with.
Yeah.
But if you do deal with it, it's easier for you to move out the way when the tree is about to fall. You know what I'm saying? Okay. This is for applying, let's use the word applying, Pluto square Uranus. So what it's saying is where Uranus is currently, this is tropic astrology, I think I should say that.
Yeah.
Okay. Because Vedic astrology would have a different measurement, but let me just stick to the tropic. Right now Uranus is transiting around the last 10 degrees of Aries. Pluto is about still around where Prophet Noble Drew Ali's sun is, so about the second decan of Capricorn.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So right now there's about a 90-degree difference between where Pluto is and where Uranus is, with an orb.
Yeah.
Because Pluto is, I'll tell you exactly. Pluto is actually at 18 degrees, 15 minutes in Capricorn, and Uranus is retrograde at 24 degrees, 42 minutes in Aries.
Yeah.
And what does that mean when Uranus is 90 degrees? Pluto is 90 degrees from Uranus. It's saying that this may be a time of social upheaval.
That's what it means.
Even revolutions.
Yep.
Geological and technical disasters are also possible. So, geologics, earth study is what Brother Taj was talking about. So, earth study and technical disasters are also possible. Intense conflicts between different factions of society will weaken the fabric of culture. Hold on, let me talk on that one real quick.
Yeah.
When it says intense conflicts between different factions of society, right? When Brother Taj said at the end of the Holy Koran, it says this is the uniting of Asia. When there's societal differences, we can't unite. So, even being here tonight is an opportunity to look at this Pluto square Uranus as a wave, and we're surfing. So those of us that know this ahead of time will know how to ride the wave instead of succumb to a tsunami.
Yes, or get turned under.
Right. So when you're thinking about it weakening the fabric of culture, culture is in the language.
Yes.
So that's saying that there may be energy forces out there to try to keep you from freeing yourself or liberating yourself, because you'll only get the culture through the reading.
Yeah.
So some people, high priests, adepts, that may not be willing to uplift the people will use this fire, because it's an energy, neutral, and burn your house down instead of cook your food and heat your home.
False flag. That's how you read. And you be knowing it's coming, so you be looking for it.
Strikes, protests, and collective bargaining. I will talk about that later. Strikes, protests, and collective bargaining are manifestations of this impulse. Change will not come without some losses. So since you know that that's saying that this is right now, since this is the position of these two planets, because when it's speaking about geological and technical disasters, because geological was Earth, so if since Pluto is transiting Capricorn in a tropic, Capricorn is Earth, that's the geologics. The technicalities would be Uranus, because Uranus controls sudden changes and electrical impulses. So what you're looking at is transformation, Pluto, in Earth, Capricorn, suddenly changing Uranus in the head, Aries. So that's actually what just that one transit actually means. And it's not like we look at them as like awesome transits or
Cheryl sent this to me yesterday. She said before they take it off her phone, she was in Washington yesterday riding her bus, and she took this picture.
It looks like two signs.
Look at that, 3 points. Hold on, look at the little orb there.
Yes.
Hold on.
Through the camera.
Yes. I'm going to share this with you all. This is back to what he's saying right now. Sister Cheryl sent this to me, actually, just a little bit earlier, and she was on her way to work, and she was in Washington area, and she said before they take this off her phones, because they've been, well, anyway. So she shared this with me, and so I'm sharing it with you all. And I'll walk in front of you.
Someone here that said is net neutrality a part of that?
Of course. Okay. That's actually a very excellent question. Since we're talking about the Constitution, I do have a couple of brief thoughts that I would like to share about the net neutrality propaganda. Okay. For those that don't know what net neutrality is, it was a means to keep the internet application providers, your YouTubes, your other search engines, or things like that, for them to provide whatever content that you go to look for to continue to be free. So according to their corporation, the praetor, Brother Barack Obama, made sure net neutrality kept it so that if anybody was really only being charged for anything with internet, it would just be with whom's providing the internet service. But whatever you retrieve in using that, you're no longer charged. So for those of you that may have been on YouTube and you just want to watch Brother Taj or anyone else that's on YouTube and you're learning, and then you get this advertisement for YouTube Red. Would you like to try YouTube Red for free? But we'll have no commercials if you just give us this amount or exchange of your life's energy, and you can watch it commercial free. That's the, let me see who bites this hook, because that will be their catalyst for the whole net neutrality thing, where they're trying to say like, okay, well, we're gonna say kill the neutrality pertaining to the internet, and let's charge $19.99 a year for YouTube, and this amount for Google search, and this amount for that, and this amount for that. So to speak to the family that had asked about does net neutrality have to do with that, I remember this is Mercury retrograde, right? So if net neutrality deals with communication, because Dyahuti, Mercury, planet pertaining to communication, our communication center, it's only right that they would try to retrograde how we communicate. They're trying to take us backwards. But in doing that, for those of us that study, we know that taking us back with the Mercury retrograde with the net neutrality is a violation of Bill of Right 1. Bill of Right 1, for the family if they're unfamiliar. Amendment 1, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievance. So our beloved brother,
And they've been denying it.
Barack Obama, when he actually was like, okay, look, we need to keep the net neutrality or whatever, he was enforcing the Constitution just on the internet. Because when you think about it, Respecting, first of all, means to look again. So it says that Congress shall make no law looking again at an establishment of realigning yourself to your ancestors or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. So that means that when you go to look to the astrology, which is your free will pertaining to communication and press, because press is the root word in expression. Okay? A lot of people using the internet, even like right now. Imagine this live feed costing you. Someone who doesn't even really want to uplift fallen humanity, yet they want to taste you. And the reason why I'm using the word taste, because the word taste and tax are synonymous etymologically speaking, coming from the Latin taxare, which means to touch, to assess. Okay? So, if we're expressing ourselves to uplift fallen humanity, here comes the vampire saying, let's kill net neutrality and ask for your life's energy in order for you to save your family. So with the Mercury retrograde, with the Pluto, which is transformation, and Uranus, which deals with electrical energies, we can look at that totally, because the charts are infinite. Whether you're casting your chart or a chart for today or a chart for next week, for those of you that's dealing with these fraudulent tribunals, and I'm just saying this, I'm going to just say it, if you're dealing with these tribunals, if you can look up the information pertaining to the magistrates, and I've done this, they'll usually have everything there about them except the time they were born.
You got that right, so that you can't counter.
Do you see what I'm saying? But you can figure out some things to the point where if you know that at least the ego, and you might just randomly throw a time, let's say you threw 9 o'clock, and you know that the sun was generally at that time of their birth was Scorpio. So they're a fixed sign. So you would know actually how to approach that Scorpio.
Yes.
You could also do what's called a synastry chart, where you actually Venn diagramized, that's not a word, but what you're doing is you're taking your chart and someone else's chart, and you're seeing how the inter aspects of the planets in your chart goes with theirs, so that you'll know what to and what not to say if you had to go into a tribunal. You would actually know how to control the circus.
There you go. The goal to those who know law, because that's the law.
Islam.
Go ahead, continue.
So, to the family that asked, did that have to do anything, does net neutrality have to do anything with what we read as far as what's going on in the world today? Yes, I would definitely say definitely the Mercury retrograde, and then reading the Pluto square Uranus is important as well. Let's see if I can get another one, if you don't mind, Brother Taj. Let's see.
Give me a break.
Okay. I really like, okay, I'm really going to use this one. Saturn void in Sagittarius. And the reason why I'm going for Saturn, for the Capricorns that are online and the Aquarius that are amongst us, Saturn is in Sagittarius, and it's on its last leg of being in Sagittarius before it enters Capricorn, okay? It says how we interpret this aspect. When Saturn void in Sagittarius means that Saturn is not aspecting any other planet right now. So it's by itself in Sagittarius, and it's doing this to the entire planet. Formalities are the rule. Traditions are maintained. Groups of old friends, family, and comrades assemble to remember the past. Go back to that mindset of your ancient foremothers and forefathers. At this time, leaders are under pressure and laws are put into effect.
Yep.
Enforce the Constitution.
Yep.
That's the only law.
That's right.
Okay? It's a time for staying with tradition, and in Black's Law Dictionary, tradition means delivery.
Yeah.
It's a time for staying with tradition and not experimenting with new forms of social behaviors. The past triumphs.
Yes.
Period.
Yes. The good revelation.
Yeah, like just that alone. Cause okay, the reason why I chose the Saturn because a lot of people. Man, Brother Taj.
Do your thing.
Okay.
Big races, so you can do.
No, I mean I could just use the bottom.
Y'all got this right?
Okay. How many people know about the planet Saturn? Did anybody know anything about Saturn?
Do
Anybody?
your thing.
Yes, mother. She needs the mic. Can y'all pass the sister the mic, please? Thanks, Brother Solomon. Islam.
Islam family, peace and love. I'm Ariam and Fijael from the Northwest Amexem. So I definitely know that Saturn is like a disciplinary. That's pretty much what I know. And I know I have a Saturn retrograde myself, among some other Saturn, other retrogrades too. But you can keep going as far as that. But Saturn is like the discipliner. So if you're the kind of person where if you have siblings, and no matter what your sibling does, they never get caught. But you could just do one little thing, you always get caught no matter what you do, because you know better. And Saturn knows that. And so you'll forever be reprimanded, but there's lessons to be learned. And also, Saturn stays in your house for a while, so it takes a while for it to circle back around. It's almost like 30 years or something like that. It's a really long process. I yield the floor,
And
thank
it's
you.
cashing all checks.
Yes, it is. Okay, the reason why I chose Saturn because a lot of. Oh, I'm sorry, Islam. Go right ahead, mother. Islam.
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 Peace and blessings and love to everyone, and especially the
Islam.
children. I read and have been looking at lectures about Saturn changing, and being a massage therapist, it was talking about the pineal gland, how Saturn, we are now breathing in particles of Saturn to enlarge.
That the belt, particles from the belt.
And it will lead us to higher consciousness. And they say from some orbs, Saturn almost look like Isis.
Well, you want to look at, we're entering the photon belt. We're in the photon belt. Go ahead.
I yield the floor.
All right. Now, I will say this. According to my studies thus far, right? I mean, oh yeah, you guys can just hold it. If anybody else that wants to ask a question, just pass the mic. Oh well. When what you said was breathing in Saturn, right? So my mind works a little this way. When I hear that, that really translates to me this way. Now, I'm not saying this is what it is, but this is how I understand it thus far according to my studies. It's not the gospel. It's just how I see it. It's just 1 degree out of the 360 that's there. You provided one as well. Okay? Saturn is discipline. Saturn is the great teacher. Okay? Charles Mosley Bey wrote The Circle of Life, as well as our Zodiac Constitution, first and foremost. Okay? With The Circle of Life, he has 2 other books as well. It's called The Clock of Destiny Book 1 and Clock of Destiny Book 2. Clock of Destiny Book 2, when around page 35, it talks about the great planet Saturn. Okay? So let me first say what breathing in Saturn would be to strengthen the pineal gland. Saturn deals with discipline. So your pineal gland is often referred to as the third eye. So what that said to me just that quickly, breathing in Saturn to strengthen the third eye means that discipline is what is going to awaken us. Time is what's going to awaken us, and great teaching, because Saturn is the great teacher. Because if we don't get it right, we got to start over.
And you spank.
Yes, well, and that's in the age of Aquarius, because Uranus is like mother, like, come on everybody, get along in love. Don't do that Saturn, like if you don't listen to your mama, I got that belt. Like that's really what it is. Okay? So Saturn on, if you look in Charles Mosley Bey, and then I'll yield the floor because I know you have something else to say, mother, okay? Charles Mosley Bey lets us know around page 40 39, page 40, around the chapter or the part that says the great planet Saturn. He lets us know that November 21st, 1950, which is the first degree of Sagittarius, is when Saturn enters Sagittarius and the southern hemisphere of the planet. So when Saturn is transiting the southern hemisphere of the planet for 15 years at a time, he said 1950, November 21st, so Saturn will transit the southern hemisphere till 1965. And then it will do that again every 30 years, roughly, maybe 29 and a half. So what happens is what he explained was the failing weather conditions, okay? So, breathing in Saturn, right? What he says about the failing weather conditions when Saturn is transiting below the equator, the southern hemisphere of the planet, it affects the weather in the northern hemisphere. Earthquakes, floods, cold springs and summers, okay? And since we know we're in our cycle 7, this is going to happen for 15 years every 30 years. So it happened from 1950 to 1965, 1980 to 1995, 2010 till... So right now, are we not experiencing inclement weathers? Are we not experiencing earthquakes and floods? Can you see the people's spirit, which is their breath, breathing in Saturn? That's how I interpret it. Now, everybody may have a different measure, but that's my measure of interpretation. Okay? So the reason why I was bringing up what you know about Saturn, and the reason why I read that and why I brought it up, because a lot of people that try to scare you away, it's the devil. Saturn, when you look at Saturn through a telescope or do some research, there's a hexagon that can be kind of seen on Saturn. So anytime you see a 6-pointed figure in some way, shape, or form, they are using the Saturn energy as a, can I say a monolith? Is that what it is? Like, if everybody's looking and touching one thing, then you're giving it the power so that it can do with or what whomever is intending what it needs to do. But it can't do it without your power being given to it. So I chose Saturn because Saturn is usually known as Satan. So I figured if I use something that we're scared of and Waterboy you. Anybody ever seen Waterboy? Oh, okay. So the coach was played by the brother who used to play Fonzie on Happy Days. He was an excellent playmaker, but his rival, who he was facing, stole his playbook. He couldn't really have his confidence until he imagined that coach that he was scared of as a baby or a puppy. Baby and puppy. It's not the devil, you know what I mean? It's not, but if you know how to use this energy, then you can breathe in Saturn and use it accordingly. I yield the floor, Mother.
Yes, and I was also, in reference to it being like Maya, it was told that the shape of how it's moving in its energy is like it had the wings of my eye. And it made me think about how the brother said that we must go back to tradition. And we must be rulers of that law. We have to internalize it. We have to understand our personal body constitution. And as our pineal glands grow, that we must meditate and visualize what we are to become. And it will be that apex. It will bring everyone to the apex, to the apex at the same time.
Yes, that's the Christ degree.
And all right, you know what? She just, and by you saying the Christ degree, and what you just said, you just brought back something to me that I could fill in even further. Brother Taj had mentioned a very important part of your charts, that's the North Node and the South Node, because the South Node is where you're coming from, North Node is where you need to be headed. Another important thing is your life lesson. In order to have life, you must have spirit, which is breath. Once again, breathing in Saturn, right? Yeah. The only way to live and breathe in Saturn is to know your life lesson. And wherever Saturn is in your chart is your life lesson. Yeah. Islam, Mother Naila needs the microphone, please, and thank you. I appreciate you, bro.
It's only a few steps.
Islam, I just wanted to add, when you were asking if anybody knew anything about Saturn, that every 29 years in our life cycle, we have what we call a Saturn return.
Yes.
Most people get at least 2. Some people may get 3 or more, but it means you've been here for quite some time. But each 29 years, when you're about 29 point whatever, you have a testing.
Yes.
If you will, like a testing. So you know, I've had a couple of Saturn returns and look for at least one more. No, since I'm gonna be here for 120, I got yeah. But yeah, so every 29 years, 29 point something so years, you have what's called a Saturn return, and you will find, you know, just before you turn 30, it's sort of a challenge before you can start to go in a life lesson.
Yes.
You know, 58.
Yes.
You know, and so forth. So, and that's under the influence of your personal Saturn return.
Yes. Yeah. I want to add to that wisdom, Mother Naila, because what I saw one astrologer describe it as, it is on the lower self side of it. It can be negatively described as midlife crisis time. But I like to look at it as it's time to take off the training wheels.
Exactly.
Yeah. Shed naivety.
Yeah, and that's what your Saturn return does at 29 and a half and 58. You know, so keep adding 29 and a half to that, and you already know every time you need to take off your training wheels, because it's a cycle. 7. Islam, the mic for the mother.
This lesson is so deep and so important.
Oh, all praise to the mommy. I'm telling you, Brother Taj completely put me on the spot. I'm trying to make sure my armpits ain't too sweaty right now. No, I'm kidding. Go. Is the mic on for the mother? Press the button upwards.
Yes. When I came in the temple in 1977, I was 18 years old, and I came in with my firstborn. And the cycle, I was, you know, when you study, neutrality taught me to study self. That's the major thing that I got out of all the lessons. And although we was going in the libraries all the time, having librarians pull out books from the dungeon and everything, and they being upset with us, we were in groups doing this. I mean, all the sheets and the members, there was no difference in rank. We studied together. And when the confusions and stuff started, like I listened to you, and that's the same thing that was happening to me. When you stick by that law and then you start getting put out, the thing I learned with my 6 sons is to study self. Yes. The power was always with me. Allah, noble duality in His lessons, and all the true and divine prophets. When this cycle that we're talking about, and when you're that spiritual to stand when nobody else is with you, spirit, the unseen world began to speak to you.
Yes, right.
It will speak to you in your twilight hours. That's that moment just before you awake. Yep. And they say, they'll come, and this is where you know that your prayers are answered. You know, most people say amen, and I do, but I also say thank you, Allah, for answered prayers, because they're always letting you know that I hear you, and you are on point, and I'm answering you. Yes. So this cycle of, like you say, look at it positively, because what you mentioned before, those of us who are not because of the masses not being what we know
Yes.
and afraid to for being the only one.
Yes.
It's no more grace period for that. We are gods and we must know it now, and we must use these lessons, because otherwise those of us that feel all our children and everyone passing and getting murdered and slaughtered is because we're not
Exactly.
being who we are.
Exactly.
The forces are saying, we are here for you, but because of your free will, you must ask. If you're not asking, you're hindering. Ask and believe that it will be answered. And I have played with that. I have played with it, and I have cried because I knew better. But that study of self is now taking me. I'm at my 58th, 59th, going into that next test. And Allah has let me know that I have passed all ones before. But when you start slacking because you get emotional about things, then you realize, just a few weeks ago, he came to me and said, are you able, can you, he said, can you stand when everyone else around you say you are wrong? And in my, I'm thinking I'm asleep, I'm like, sure I can. But when I wake, and I began to see that this was real, because just like that, in a turn of events, I was being like, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. And I was like, I was bombarded with it all. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's happening. Can I stand? And I had to, I changed a little because I became more aggressive. I've been kind of passive, you know, but you know, because you'd be like the only one sometimes. And so you get tired of that because you yearn for the tradition, family, dinner every time together, learning together, growing together. And then all of a sudden you look at everyone's for themselves. Sometimes it happens in your own family. Yes. So you have to stand. You have to know that the forces are with you. And sometimes, I have to admit, you throw in a few cuss words to let people know you're serious, because they take kindness and they take this seriousness for weakness, and you be getting beat down. But then you have to push back, and not too much, but just say, not with so much force, but you have to, enough for you to continue to stand. So I had to say that testimony so that I could say, because all of this is relevant. Every single thing that's been said, it was meant for me to hear it, because that's what I needed to do, what I know, and what I have been afraid to do for a long time.
Step up.
I'm stepping up.
And drop the naivety.
Drop the naivety. Yes.
See,
Thank you.
I want to tell you had brought something up too, Mother. And I swear, y'all do it. It's y'all doing it. Because it's like, I didn't think of it before you just said what you said. Okay. I just thought about this, and I'm going to ask a very brief question, but I think it's necessary. And I think this will be great exercises for the children especially. Get them familiar with a compass and a square. Because, can I have one of those sets of compass and squares back there, please? Just one of them. Yeah. Either one, it doesn't matter. And if you could get my big wing divider, I'm gonna hurry up. Let me hurry up back there. That's good. You can take that out. But I wanted to just familiarize the family because the sister had brought up something that I just wanted to just suggest really briefly, right? Yeah, I'll take it. Oh, that's fine. I don't need a pencil. Okay. See, and see, Brother Taj is he knows exactly where I'm going. So this is awesome. Okay. So even though I brought up the Saturn, I wanted to, and maybe this is because this is just what the ancestors are putting on me right now. When you draw, okay, this is in HVAC. I'm an HVAC technician by trade. I need some more experience. No, I'm kidding. This is known as a wing divider. Okay. to some out there in the field, or a pencil holder as well, okay? Because it has it right there. But if you use this, you can etch your sheet metal as well and do your, line developments and things like that. So if you were to kind of take this, right? But I'm not going to put it on a board. I just wanted to familiarize the babies with it. This is not a scary thing. This is something I think you really need. And sometimes we see it depicted in various forms like this. You'll see the as above, so below. You see compass and square,
That's right.
You actually see something else in the middle if you see how certain ones are drawn. But let me make my point. If you were to draw, and this is the Genesis pattern that they call it, so if you were to read Genesis, you would actually be able to see Saturn immediately, right? So what you don't see is the egg of life and the flower of life. But I'll show you how they make it with all of these, because they're all there, you just don't see them. So usually it says that, in the beginning, there was this consciousness, alrighty? And so if I actually had my compass and square actually, properly done, and I wish I really did, it makes me want to get a board compass, but I would take this same diameter, I would actually create a radius, let's say a radius of 3 inches. And I would take it here and I would actually draw the circle and create a diameter of 6 inches. So I would take that and I would move here and draw another circle. So I'm just going to briefly illustrate it the best I can, freehanded, okay? So let's say we got another circle here. It's not that neat, but I'm sorry, Brother Taj, don't beat me. So now you see the Vesica Pisces.
Yes.
If Mother was, and I'm saying this respectfully, Mother, you see the Stargate.
Yeah.
Okay, now you move to the Trinity, Trion Array, which would be something sort of kind of like that.
Yeah.
So that would be the first day, the second day of creation.
Yeah.
Then you got the third day-ish right here. This is so terrible, Brother Taj, but I'm gonna try to get around it, right?
They daughter cells.
Yeah, basically. And that's what? Is that 6 of them right there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? So that's ugly, but what I'm trying to draw is this, actually, right? Sort of kind of like that a little. But the reason why I'm kind of illustrating this, because if I was to connect the points of all these seeds, right? If I was to connect the points of all these seeds, right? I would get that hexagon. I would also get correspondence, Solomon's shield, which is here. So you see both of these are there based off of drawing 7 circles. Okay, yeah, just bring it up. I knew you were going to do it. That's funny. It's all on your mind. It's all in the air, right? Okay. This is a picture, Brother Taj, of an icosahedron.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll let you guys pass that around. So just for fun, I always do the sacred geometry because it does 2 things. It calms you and it elevates you. So when you actually are drawing these things, you can draw, read your cycle 7, the Helios Bibliotech, the Kabbalion, the Kabbalah, the Vedas, anything you read, and what you'll see is that they all equal up to these shapes, right? So as you guys will see, I drew the flower of life first. But you'll also see within that, you'll see the egg of life, and the egg of life usually looks like, we'll take out this circle, right, Brother Taj? We'll take out this circle, right? Right here in the middle. And usually the egg of life is that. And that's really how we develop in mother's womb.
Yep.
Wow.
And they're called daughter cells.
Zygote, is that what you said?
Like a dot.
Oh, okay, got you. You talking about like this?
Right.
Yeah.
Like that? Yeah. So you'll see it kind of like, because of all the other cells, because it's translucent,
Yeah.
right? So So with that being said, in drawing 7 circles with equal diameter, but only moving to the outer part of the circle where you would put the point for your compass to draw your next circles, this is the Genesis pattern, the Gene Isis pattern. So you take the Gene Isis pattern and you can get your what is known as your 5 platonic solids. A tetrahedron, a hexahedron, an icosahedron, a dodecahedron, and the 5th one, hold on, don't tell me. Tetra, hexa, icosa. Oh, y'all, come on, help me out, y'all. I'm forgetting.
Let it work.
Okay.
No,
Tetrahedron.
let them work.
Oh, let them work. Okay. Tetrahedron. You said 5. Is it the pentagram? Yeah, it might be. It might actually be. Yeah. Now that I think about it, yeah, because that's. Yeah, because now that I think about it, yeah, that's the one that has the angles of 108 degrees, and that deals with the moon. Okay. So with those 5 platonic solids based on the philosopher Plato, which that's not talking about it, that's us. That's what they coined it as Plato, though. So long story short, when you actually, because you said you're dealing with your second Saturn return, right? Remember, this is a wave you're dealing with, so you don't go under or had to deal with a tsunami. Ride it. So you can use that energy.
Yes.
If people are, no, you're wrong.
Learn from it.
This is how you prevent yourself from being pushed off the cliff and walk through the midst of them. When they tried to, and it says in the Bibliotech, they tried to throw Yeshua off the cliff or whatever, and you doing this, you doing that, and it says you walk right through the midst of them.
Yes.
Because his mind wasn't where their minds was. So he was able to elevate in a way, because as he think, he can be. So if he thought, I'm not a part of y'all, it was easy for him to move, to not be a part of them. So that's how you can do it with your challenges or whatever it is that you're dealing with, especially with Saturn. So the reason why I chose Saturn, because this is, don't look behind the curtain. And I just wanted to show you, it's Richard Pryor. That you shall feel no evil. So that's just really, I think that's all I got so far on that, but I just felt to choose that because a lot of us sometimes will, like Mother Naila said last night when her and Brother Taj was live last night, and what happens is, and I've experienced it personally, you'll have genuine people with pure hearts and sincere intents, Brother Taj, okay, and family. And what happens is they be on a roll, and then Saturn tests to see if they legit. You ever bought a leather coat and he told you it was sheepskin, and then it ripped easily, and you found out it was pleather? You know what I'm saying? You know, so you're being tested on the type of material that you say you are. You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, I think it is best that, especially, I swear, y'all have them draw these. I don't know what y'all don't know. Y'all probably are, because y'all energy is phenomenal. I'm serious. It really is. Them drawing them compasses and them squares, because I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, they all have Saturn retro. You're the geometrician. She is. She's like, don't talk to me. Don't put me on the spot. You the one on the spot. So I really think that is something that by the time they're 13, they'll be full grown. Because there are other people that at 13 and 12 know this science. Hold on, what you say out there?
I was just laughing, Yeshua, that's all.
Yeah, disputing with the doctors of the law, right?
Yep, 12. Yep.
You know, so go ahead, Mom. It's on.
Our our babies, they be here, all of the, I see them in school, I work in the school system. They doing this. I know, I remember I did it at 3, but kindergarten, first grade, I started doing all these circles. Every art project, I don't know, I did all kinds of geometry. I love it. And so in the school system, they're learning it. What the world is doing to our children now, it's like it's hard for them to get it. I'm in high schools
They
with
start
children,
shutting them
and
down
they can't figure it out.
Yeah,
We
they don't teach them.
have to take them out of Rome's hand.
Yes.
We do, and we should have our own schools in every
Did the
town.
proper charges with that?
Yes,
Yes.
and we did in the 70s.
Now,
We did in the 70s because I was in the schools and I took my children in the schools.
And you said a microman.
Indeed.
You know, and for, you know, for many of the children, because many of you are teaching your children, you know, but for those who, to accentuate what you're doing, go to Shika's Daria Bey's online school. Grand Shika's Daria Bey. And you already know that she has the Moorish talk on Wednesday, etc. So go on her site, and she has school for children online, and the curriculum is great. Yes. Well, I'll give you the number in a minute.
Do you want me to?
Daria, oh here. So all you gotta do is write her name in. DURRYY. Yeah. AH, you're right. Grand Shika's Daria Bey, online school. Just type her name in and it'll come up.
Okay.
All right? And, you know, she's, you know, always been trying to maintain the integrity of the Prophet's mission for the Moors. And so, for those who, you know, been going to different temples and getting kind of burned a little bit, you know, go to her site. If you want to go to the temple,
Yes.
go to Daria Bey. She'll drop a lot on you, you know. A lot of times I don't push it because people think I'm being biased about it.
Well,
But she's on it.
because you do.
You know, she's on it, you know.
I trust what you're saying.
Yes, and that's for anyone with children. As a matter of fact, it'd be good for the adults.
Yes.
Yeah.
The adult children.
I would just like to add when you said it would be good for the grown mothers and sons, because when I saw Prophet Noble Ali saying that indeed there must be a school in every temple, and you are that temple, so it's important to study. But I noticed must have a school.
He didn't say maybe, he said must.
First schoolroom is the womb.
Yes.
So if the children need to be in school, you see, and especially at least Mother Islam, bro.
Repronounce her name.
All right.
Daria Bey, and we're actually about to wrap up with this. He said Grand Sheikh is Daria Bey, Islam.
Islam, you all. We can ready to close down. I want to thank you, all of you, for coming out to the House of Reawakening Minds. Thank you for bringing the children. I do apologize for not being able to contact with you earlier, but we were on 50 schedules at one time. Anyway, construct some questions and understand that when you're talking about enforcing the Constitution, it is not just a written document. It is also the building of your body, knowing the phosphates and salts by which your body is built. The 3 moons outside the womb where your mother has not contributed to the building of that temple, it is your consciousness to go get those salts via the foods that contain them. In another way, you kind of start looking at these things like your food is not the medicine. Do you understand? Your natural medicine is the food, kind of like thing. You know, and when you know yourself and know your body, there will be less sickness. And understand most of the sicknesses that plague humanity today are man-made. You must know that. You must know that. So when you go back to the traditions and customs of your ancient mothers and fathers, you will, by the nature of your living and lifestyle, heal yourself. And when you do get sick, you kind of automatically kind of know where to go. And when it used to be that grandmother would go to the yard, go to the trees, talk to the trees, and bring in herbs on the cycles of the moon, etc. The natural thing. A lot of this we forgot. We must get back to that. Knowing your body is very important because you would be able to go by the rules of life. Go ahead.
Also, I wanted to, Islam, I wanted to make sure that we understand the importance of water. Purified water. Water transports, transfers, transforms, transmits, stores, and transfers information.
Yes, it does.
Right? So that when you're drinking your water, think about this. It's the art of alchemy. You can tone your water. Peace. 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 That is how you combat the chemtrails. That is how you combat the fluoride in the water. That is how you combat the pollution and the toxins that are being thrown at us in every which way. But the sun allows us to take in and transform through the electricity. So sun gazing at sunrise and sunset will allow us to preserve the integrity of our cellular divine matrix.
I bear witness. Islam.
Islam. Anyway, real quick, because we got to close down.
Yes, Dr. Naila said show them the books for the self.
These are the books. The Zodiac and the Salts of Salvation. This is part 1. Truth about your health.
RBDayPublications.com.
Yes. Islam, brother. Thank you.
Islam.
Anyway, thank you for coming out to We're Awakening Minds. Come prepared with pens and papers when you come here. You already know the rules. Have a good night. Peace. Thank you.
Islam.
Brother Hassan.
Thank you.
Thank you.